What's so wrong with that? And then you've got 60 years of making good on all those people you traumatized in your denial of trauma. Then all those 66 years of all those ghost slaves that they say that takes for a white man and woman in the West to live and to exist, the least of which is all the cobalt slaves in Africa right now to use this phone that I'm in denial of using in order to pay my bill. Not to mention my clothing at Lululemon and the plastics and all the things that I do to create this lifestyle to basically rant against my denial. And then all that money that I put into the war machine that kills, just go to a fucking war zone, Mr. Biden, rather than fucking deny the need for, you know, my inability to have a debate with Robert Kennedy or Mr. Trump. Fly on your fucking privilege and go to Yemen and get down on your naked knees and look at that boy who's cannibalizing himself right now because he cannot find food and water based upon your need to give guns to the Saudis and give guns and guns and guns and guns to the Ukrainian to create a fucking NATO-induced war that's no longer a proxy war. Next thing you know, guess what happened? There is no more Earth. There's been a nuclear war. It's over. Even this little fucking rant on YouTube and on Facebook makes no sense. We are inches away from that. Oh, it's not that dark. It's not that dark. It is. It's much darker than that, right? Their fucking YouTube is fucking deplatforming Robert Kennedy, a presidential candidate. Pedigree. He's a genius. No. Gmail saying he can't have a voice, got to take down those selected things where he talked about the reality of science during the last 3 years. Just self-centered, if you noticed. You can't use the XAV word. So, not to be alarmed, but talk in the mirror of your self-therapy and listen to these 3 offered freely around the world sessions. They're on my website under events. Meditation, microdosing, mindful intelligence, and self-therapy offered through the Sentinel in British Columbia. They're providing the platform, and I'm going to just talk freely for 2 hours on Sunday. I've got 3 video seminars coming up in July. They're on my website under events, offered freely, where I'm going to be revealing my personal beliefs on how I am working with consciousness. I have nothing to say to the world. I just want to reveal before I die a chance on how I go about what meditation, mindful intelligence, open awareness meditation, the wisdom of self-therapy. You know, and I believe that it's like, I do love therapists. I do love those who are in positions. I have a few friends that are actually clinical psychologists, and I love them. But I feel that we have so much time, so many days in the week and so many weeks in the year in which we have so much to discover about ourselves. I can't afford a Wednesday at 2 o'clock anymore. I'm tired of doing Zoom sessions on what I can't see in myself. I want to see what I don't see in myself on my terms, under microdosing conditions, under mindful intelligence applied to my own psyche, my own subconscious, my own consciousness. And self-therapy is the answer to the dilemma of I don't have enough, or there isn't anyone who can meet me. You know, you are your best teacher. In Burma, and I'll close with this, we'll go back to you if you have questions. My teacher said, Alan, you know, hey, listen, you know, we're decent, but no one's like you. And that's what the Kalama is. That's what the Buddha said. There's no one like you, Kalama. Don't even listen to me, he said. That's so rad. To me, that is so on. I don't know how you hear that or feel that. Don't even believe me. Only believe that which you see through hard-earned evidence of your own experiential insights into your own subconscious, your own denial, your own deception. Everyone around the world should ask a therapist, a psychiatrist, a plant medicine, dare use the word of medicine, a purger king. How have you learned? All of us lie, and all of us lie to ourselves. Talk to me about how you lie to yourself. I want to apprentice with your lies, not with what you think I don't know about me. Reverse the whole motherfucking thing. You're a mentor in overcoming some of these archetypal issues, right? Why is that so provocative? It's not provocative. It's just that it's sort of virginal to the landscape of commerciality, capitalism, and patriarchy, and what the world considers authority. I've already worked through it. I went through my dysfunction and my denial when I was in Peru, and the group of shamans looked at me and said, "You don't have shit under your belt, dude. And you brought all these people down here at lots of profit on our back, and you don't have a fucking clue about who you are. Step aside, go into the closet and purge your lies." I purged. I'm going back now, write a bestseller. I purged. I'm free of all my deception. I'm an expert now that I've gone into the closet for a weekend and made all the money on the back of all these people. That's not training. That's not the real McCoy. I don't know who I'm talking about, but maybe that's everyone. But this kind of lie, would you tell me the truth of what you really did? Are you really fucking saying you're enlightened? Yep. On the 66th day of my retreat under Mahasi Sayadaw and U Pandita in Burma, my mind completely went into the void. I can't really say that that little gap was really nirvana or nibbana, but my sense it really was. And for the most part, I've lived in denial now for 37 years since that little blip of nibbana, and I've lied to everyone. I live in a golden temple. I fuck everyone I want to fuck in my mind, but never in real person. I would never cross the line with my students, but I masturbate like hell at home. You're really, really integrated, dude. I love you, but you're not a comedian. You're a fucking fraud. Let's call it like it is, right, dude? Brush your teeth with Colgate. I'm not calling out anyone. I'm just saying we got to call out ourselves, and that's the gift of what I saw among teachers in Burma was like, you're your teacher, dude. You want to live in the hole of denial? Go for it. You want to live in self-deception? Go into your room and live in the closet of your own pretense. But don't come to me talking about you've overcome your ego with your enlightenment experience back when you were 10. You wanted to be honest with me? You want to be honest with yourself? You've asked me what I think about your attainments? B-O-G-U-S. Sing with me. Bogus, I'm bogus. I've empowered my bogus to the point. I'm bogus, I'm bogus. Imagine if a teacher you paid $10,000 to, like this fucking fraud in LA at the Albert Einstein University, he said, guess what, you psychiatrists, all you people who make the loot on people, I just pull the wool over your eyes purposely to basically say that you're not bogus, but you really aren't ultimately looking carefully enough at that which you are in denial of. We all are imperfect. And the way to overcome that for me is to ask from others, have the love for me, please, to help me understand what I don't see in myself. You ask about women? You know, I don't know how else to say it, but if I'm going to be in some form of intimate rapport with a woman, it's what don't I see in myself? And please, would you have the courageous gift? I know I'm not going to like it. I know I'm going to reject the motherfucking shit out of you. But however, I'll show my bright, shining openness by saying, at least, please write a note to me and help me understand what I don't see in myself on the terms of being a better person. Let's start there. And if we have a moderate dose and safety and it's intelligent, man, it's like, thank you for the fucking gift. Thank you for the gift. It was so rare in Burma to find those moments of trust with your teacher where you actually cried with joy that they were willing to say what they saw. It was only when they weren't willing to really say what they saw that you felt, God damn it, what am I not seeing in myself to feel open enough and vulnerable enough and safe enough and truthful enough? Is he just making a pressure cooker out of me? That mother, and they don't have expectations of being taught on the terms of when you think the teaching needs to be given. That's intimacy, right? And you go, and as soon as you begin to relax, all of a sudden he's talking to her, and he is talking to her in such a way that you swear he's talking to you. And you go, whoa, is that skillful? And later on, I learned when I was in these so-called semi-emergent teacher, not trainings, but emergence at the possibility of being a little bit more than what I was. That's one of their most skillful mechanisms, is to teach indirectly. You don't cut bamboo down by slamming it face on. You take it from the side, they said. And a lot of us egoic Americans need to take it from the side. And that's one of the hardest things to hear from all of us is, I just don't have this safety inside to be vulnerable and open, and to come out of the costume, the cognitive costume of armor, pretense, that kind of shit. I hope you found some value in today. Any other things that might be important to you, don't hesitate. I enjoy the opportunity. And I will close with this, that so much of these Buddhist texts, as I understand them, were about this. This is an edge for me, and I think in the conversation globally, it's the study of literary reality. I can recite a quote or a poem or a comedic riff, but how to feel I would call it the infinite resonant intelligence of felt meaning of the word, the phrase, the riff. Then there's the authentication of the emotionality, the existential radiance of the state with the synchronicity and the alignment with the language. That makes sense? That level of coherence is a rarefied, I think, on the edge today art form. It's how to walk the deeper existential conversation inside of yourself that you're often in denial of. I think therein lies the value of the microdosing. And in the rarity of radical, intimate, cognitive, existential intimacy. And this is the Buddha's teachings. You got a sense in these discourses of the Buddha, they weren't language sharings. This dude had a pre-psychic intuitive and the resonant capacity of an audience were so ripe, so amazing. They weren't inferior creatures. They were sitting on infinite levels of transformational wisdom. And I think to digress here, a lot of people that I meet in life, they're not less than teachers. They're actually more than teachers. They're just not being reinforced in what I would call untapped existential wisdom. They're actually really savants. And I've seen that more and more in my own emergence. My teachers in Burma looked at you and said, "You dude, you rock. You're rad, you're coarse, you're crazy, but you rock on terms of Dharma. Come on in." And I got validated, and that brought me to a new edge of self. My point here with the Buddha is I would like to encourage more and more resonant integrity, play, theatrical, sapio-eroticized prose sharing, these inner mosaics, the vocabulary of transformational awakening on a resonant felt physics wisdom level. That study can be learned. I'm not a Beethoven, obviously, but spoken word art is far more interesting than a spiritual teacher. That's learning the wisdom, etiquette, resonance of shared space. And you get far more availability with stages than you do teaching retreat centers. You got to be in religious narrow alignment to survive a Western Buddhist cult or a Jungian psychotherapeutic system of training, or an acro yoga alignment with my denied narcissism system of wisdom, occultism called "This is the way in which yoga is done according to Iyengar." fundamentalist brown shirt in the making of my denied Hitlerism. I'm going to be a leftist, woke, democratic, transgenderfied, satanic, no offense to any of that, I'm just using satire skillfully here in my last moments of sanity. So you got to really go, whoa, whoa, be your own guide, be your own best teacher, be your own best savant, be your own best lover, be your own best goddess, be your own best. Take it off the payment scale, be my own best. That would be, for me, a self-therapeutic riff. I'd watch that and go, what are you really saying, Alan? I'd take notes. I spent a week of notes on my self-therapy, just to show that I walk my talk a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And that's just this week. I'm obsessive crazy. Exactly. I mean, because you got to really dive into be at the best kept secret, and people don't know how to do it on their own.
Well, do you have a list of really good self-therapy?
Absolutely. You join the Sunday thing for 2 hours, you'll get the download. This is my personal, I don't share it. I don't share anything personal. I don't tell more than 2% of my personal mind.
I'm interested in the ways in which you self-inquiry.
Okay.
The ways in which you engage with yourself in a self-inquiry.
Well, no offense. Can you afford $300 an hour? I'll be happy to give you 1% of it. 10% at $10,000. $100,000 the whole download. How deep do you want it, Jasmine? No offense. For you, it'll be offered freely because I'm really a believer that don't charge for anything. And I thank Meg at Yoga Barn and Colleen for allowing me to basically go on about offering it freely. I just feel that that's something in my integrity right now that's very important, so that I hold myself accountable to living simply. I don't even, ask for donations, except for right now, please load me up with at least a couple of million so that I can bring in and give it to people, help bring a message to the world before there's no world to give a message to. Yes, on my website under support, you can support me. I hardly ever say that. We take PayPal. I would love to see big whale dive in with 100 Bitcoin. That would be so rad. I promise to use it wisely. So I'd be happy to share with you, Esmond. Honored to share with you. One could use, just to offer a little bit right now, we're going to end in a couple of seconds, but what does it mean to be self-honest? And watch the emotionality of self-protection in that honesty. So you got to I'm very fond of using the palette because I've been a visual artist from a long age. Is you got to write down the key words that you use. For example, one self-therapeutic method is, the first thing I would say if you came to me and asked, as you're asking, what are some of the self-therapeutic methods that you use? You got to write down, you don't have to, but I write down what are the key words that I use that define my interiority. And what are the key words that I use to define my exteriority? So you got an I and you got an E. And I use the word so frequently, authenticity, authenticity. And then you got to put a little bit of physical movement with how you go about. No one's paying attention to you. Your therapist, your teacher, no one's grooving with you in the group. Authenticity, you got to mock yourself, bitch. You got to be a little bit battle rap. Okay, you're pairing off with some dude who grew up in the ghetto and who can just out-rap your ass, bitch. So you got to out-rap your ass. Because you'll never get to the graveyard of your wisdom and your beauty by pretending to be authentic. You got it. So you got to put a little bodily motion to it. That's not easy to do because you want to basically have lunch, you want to cook some sprouts, you want to get laid, whatever it is that you want to do. I think I'm going to give it with self-therapy. I'd rather just pay money for people to listen to me. How do you deflect from self-therapeutic wisdom? category too. What do I do with my spare loot? I bought another notebook yesterday. Look, brand new. Yet again, just what you need, Alan. More notes. Buy yourself a notebook.
Would you say in some ways that studying the prison that you're in?
Study what?
Studying the prison that you're in.
No, I wouldn't use negative terms like that. That's another thing. It's re-language everything out of negativity. You're not dysfunctional. You're not traumatic. You're not traumatized. You're not wounded. I get hit by a car. I was on my bike, wounded. That's wounded. Okay? People who've been gang raped, that's fucking rad, man. People who've seen murder, rad. People who lost a child, rad. People who've been women who wanted to get pregnant, can't get pregnant. That's rad, but you don't need to call it trauma. Yes, that's conventional labeling. Re-language everything to be what? What is a word that I want to use there? It fucking hurts beyond comparison, but take it out on God. Okay, so re-language everything. So not prison, no prisoning. Take the chains off every label that you identify with. Take ugly off your presence. Look into the mirror of your self-therapy and go, I refuse to participate in culturalisms. I am not going to buy apartheid on my fucking face, my tits, my cellulite, my nipples, my lack of anything. I am not in lack. Yes, I can improve. I will improve. I'm going to really face reality as it really is. Okay, so that's the answer to my question. If that's a natural word, write it down. Prison, I'm imprisoned. I'm unable. I'm dysfunctional. I'm traumatized. Write them down. Get real, get rad. And then these are progressive steps over many months, though. The self-therapeutic thing I've developed, Jasmine, over 45 years. If we were to hang out every day for a year, you wouldn't get the full of it. Because it's really a language, it's an art form that uniquely, you never get competent in it until you're fully enlightened. But you definitely will take it off of other. But would I pay for a psychiatrist? Yes. If I had the money, if I could find a psychiatrist who would listen, and I felt that she could really sit with me on Zoom or in person, I would definitely go there. But I don't know that I would last long. I do have one psychiatrist friend, Krishnananda in Santa Fe, who I listen to very carefully. My friend Mitch in Boston, psychotherapist, I listen to. My friend Janine, clinical psychologist, I listen to very carefully.
Because there are some experts on archetypal energies that come through, particularly for women.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't have enough knowledge on based on just reading through reading books. So.
Oh, that's a different question than you were asking about self-therapy.
Well, no, it's just pointing to what you just spoke to, which is that it's okay to outsource. It's okay to outsource.
Only you can answer that.
I think I need to.
Only you can answer the value of what you do and what you can afford and the benefit of that cost-risk ratio. And that's not for anyone to decide. That's the whole Kalama thing. How do I understand what's truthful for me? You know, you got to really examine carefully what the need is. Yes, of course, when a car breaks down, you want to get it fixed unless you're a car mechanic. I go to the dentist because I can't be a dentist. But there are a lot of people I know who can't afford dentists or who are imprisoned and their teeth were kicked out. And, you know, there are a lot of people who are being, you know, massacred right now who have no recourse to any authority other than other revolutionaries. So I don't know what you can do, what one can do. But I personally would, to answer that is, what is the value of what I'm doing? What does an archetypal discovery mean to my well-being, and what are my priorities in my life? Those are the things that I would ask, the cost-risk ratio. And what are my aspirations? But if someone were to ask me, am I using my time wisely, is a deeper question. That's really what you're asking, as I hear it. Not so much the efficacy of archetypal theory. Am I using my time wisely? Otherwise, you wouldn't ask the question. There'd be no ambiguity about that. For me, that was reflecting back as an honest friend. You've got some ambiguity about that. But so the question becomes how to empower that question. How am I using my time wisely? And can I use my time in conjunction with that even more wisely? That, to me, is coming out of the prison of self-doubt. And that will highlight the wisdom of what we're doing or the light, unnecessary equation. And a lot of people are living underneath the denied passion skill set of untapped creativity as vehicle for spiritual, psychological, existential salvation. Just not even so much art, but how well do they walk? Their swag is a far better wisdom sometimes than going on about my inability in my relationship. How well do you walk? How well do you, am I dressing? Do I own my nipples and breast and yoni the way it is? My dick? Do I use my voice in honest ways? I don't say ask these questions, but I say ask them. Am I writing the book that I'm in denial of writing, that I've always wanted to write, that I'm not writing because I'm not asking the questions, that I really have something to say? I don't feel that I have something to say. I've got to learn more about archetypal therapy before I actually feel that I need to say something. But what jump over hurdles, get deeper and deeper into urgent, on-firedness. Otherwise, it's easy to be a victim on the beach of suntanning when the tsunami takes you down. Next thing you know, you're, whoa, really? I've got some kind of thing that inhibited my well-being. My best friend, we were monks together, I'll end with this. He was a rad monk, a rad guy. And we had conversations like this. And he had a family. I actually introduced him to his wife that they married. And he became a professor at Kyoto University for a long time, making quite a bit of money being an English professor. And then he had the aspiration to, he really loved music. And he and his wife and his daughter, they lived in Byron Bay. And I would go to Byron Bay all the time from way back. And it's a super interesting town, it used to be. And so he was skilled in music. And I said, Tom, why don't do a fucking, you know, you and I talk music all the time. Go DJ, man. Do talk show DJ. Got a playlist together. Next thing you know, talk to the Bay FM. Took him right on. Because he was rad and nimble enough from LA, and he knew music sufficiently enough to comment on it that he was compelling. And next thing you know, he had a very top of the line DJ music talk show in a very competitive market for the Byron Bay psyche, the Mullum psyche, blah, blah, blah. It's a super hip area. But then he'd go back to Kyoto to go about making lute. And he felt like teaching English to people, although it was good, it wasn't him being in that artistic, edgy, rad for less income, because it was a volunteer job. And when he was in Byron Bay, he wasn't working and had home and mortgage, and he was in that juxtaposition until eventually, the next thing you know, he was taking more and more time with being in Byron Bay at the compromise to his income. And guess what happened? He once began to lose memory of certain elementary things, and his wife said, maybe you should get tested. And they said, you've got early stage Alzheimer's. And 4 years later, he died. And I can tell you, this isn't some backhanded or upfront thing, but it taught me a big lesson. Never postpone your art, your voice, your passion for anything to do with money, with loot, expectations. And I was with him from a distance. And the things that excited him and his cognitive, it wasn't collapse, but his memory of the passion that he had for music and for sharing the truth of his voice and his Dharma. As his memory receded of normal years, being a monk together, the wisdom of his insights and the sanctity of Sangha became forefront. And you could say he, in my humble estimation, he died in glory of his best, but in complete collapse of all the cultural expectations. Very big teaching. Best friend. My other beloved friend, Robert Chardoff, the luminous, creative, savant, producer, storyteller, supporter of hyper talent, who did all the Rocky movies, The Right Stuff, They Shoot Horses, Don't They, Valentino, knew everyone. Oscars, celebrity, from impoverished, depression, Brooklyn kid to hyperstar. Came to my retreats in the early 80s. We became very dear friends, married he and his wife in 1990. I don't name drop like this, but he was one for, hey man, I see so much talent come through on my desk through my support team. And it's not just the story, it's the talent and the people you take a risk on who you want to associate with because you believe in their energy and you shape a story with them. Still keeping that innocent, that creative, right? Not being tied down by successes. And he even, bless his heart, gave me a sizable stipend. Alan, you are rad, dude. You're one of the best storytellers that I've ever come across in my 40 years in Hollywood. What story would you want to write if you had the liberty to write it? I said, Bob, having written the book, Burma, the Next Killing Field, having been up to war a little bit on close, I'd like to go to a place where there's a genocide and experience what it means to explore love. Write a book, a film on what it means to love in the time of genocide. And my beloved friend, Marcia Jacobs, who was working at the United Nations during the war in Yugoslavia, got me into the country. And for nearly a year, I stopped. And I went silent. I went so beyond script writing into whoa, whoa, whoa. And so putting oneself into radical circumstances outside of cultural places of safety and boundary and success and jobs and psychedelics, and to do something rad, like take your shoes off and fucking grow broccoli and corn out of the box of your own denial and live in a yurt and go someplace called a refugee camp or a place where there's internally displaced people all along the border of Thailand and Burma today, and just go there and volunteer without your suit, without your cloak, without your job, without your clinic, and go there and give back and just go, whoa, I'm disruptive to my normalcy. I don't fucking need archetypal therapy. What I need is to come closer to the edge of urgency and giving back. And I am taking notes all day long on how I can go back home and creatively explode. And I can't say that that's true for people. I spent 3 years in deep psychotherapy with one of Marin County in San Francisco's best female psychotherapists. I spent nearly 6 years off and on with my friend Bob, who was nearly 25 years older than me, in a shared kind of MDMA-oriented psychotherapeutic context where we taped our 7-hour sessions for 5 years doing that. And I learned so much. I'm not saying abandon things, but in this type of hypersurgency today, hyper-urgency, am I living the life that I could be living, or am I at the crossroads of my denial, paralyzed by my spiritual belief systems? And I'll close with this and we can end. I really feel gifted that I have this opportunity. You know, when I was writing this book, Extinction X-Rated, which I'm filming right now, called Raw War, and I'm in a rewrite of it all, I'm determined to make the film of my dream, to confront the toxic patriarchy in the world, including my own denial of my own. But at Bob's house, he had a big, big book of New Yorker cartoons, and I opened it one day and I found a cartoon there where you see this man at a crossroads, and there's 2 signs, and one says, the life I could have led, and the other sign that says, the life I'll lead. And this man is poised in the middle in hyper ambiguity about which road to take. The life I could have led in the life I'll lead. And you can just see yourself there, and you're doing a static dance there, okay? No offense. You're purging, yet again, of the indecision to really make the choice of the road I need to go down and abandon one career for the next. And I've got to keep my digital nomadic job, and I've got to keep my persona. And if I don't go down that road, I'll never live my dream. And how the fuck can I get to this truth? Paralyzed in the NOW. The now has been powered people to be paralyzed in stillness as priority over preference and wisdom choices. You'll see the truth more clearly when you're here. Not really. You got to talk the now out of being now as a way of empowering coma and paralysis and get with discomfort. I'm so fucking pissed off in the now. Stillness is not the answer. The best kept secret of the soul is the beauty of radical existential fucking uncertainty and angst, right? It's been marginalized, it's been criminalized to the point it has become an illness to feel out of step with the lockstep of capitalism and culture and loot, all the behaviors, all the ways in which we do life to live in conformity. And I can't say what that looks like, but you have to ask yourself, am I at a crossroads in fucking what life do I really want before there's no life to live? Society right now is up against our lives. I'm not really at the cutting edge because I've got certain things going on where I can't spend the kind of time I need to. But now that I'm researching this film, I'm determined to film it. I'm putting a lot of time into Twitter and friends and conversations and investigative journalism again. Whoa, I could see the revolution in Burma coming. I could see the totalitarian takeover coming, but I've never seen something so clearly. And I'm not stating things that are so obvious. It's more obvious to people. The war is on, and I'm a peaceful activist. I'm not saying take up weapons, but boy, I can tell you a lot of people are. It is happening so rapidly. I feel no faith, no certainty. People are all over the world that I know that are very close friends are in the same boat, but they're going to rise up. But I'll tell you, they're coming after us. Even this talk today, it runs the risk of high censorship, for God's sake. My algorithms have gone down by 20 since I've been talking about these things in the last 2 weeks, just to test. I put up Naomi Wolf's Substack. It almost got no likes. I normally would get 200 to 300, 400. Robert Kennedy's things that one person dared like. And I say these things, almost no one is paying attention because I'm on a wrong platform. And I'm having to make a leap over to Twitter. And I'm soon to be doing it. I was banned for a year because I broadcast Bobby Kennedy's book on YouTube. Just a book that Amazon sells. And the head of Google talking about the fears of AI has the fucking audacity to do that to a genius politician who wants to save the world while you're telling us we should be fucking concerned about AI. Talk about speaking out of both sides of your mouth. And we let people get away with that? It's like, my daughter would never hold me in sacred respect if I didn't speak up. Got to be accountable to someone inside of yourself. That's one of the hardest things in our mirroring with each other. I'm going to be the uncomfortable lover of telling you beautiful things about yourself, not uncomfortable truths. People do not want to let go of their suffering. I saw that in meditation circles. God damn it. I'm not beautiful, Alan. I am not wise. I need to suffer more. I'm going back to my routine of 8 hours of sitting, 6 hours of walking. I'm a nun for life, none like you, motherfucker. Justified, justified, justified. It's amazing to me how vilified people can become by simply being a lover of freedom. Look at my friend Aung San Suu Kyi. It breaks my fucking heart. But now that I've overcome a broken heart, might die of it, rise up, dude. Collective global witch burning by the corporate patriarchal pigs called the New York Times, CNN, BBC, and all the rest of those fucking corporate people that have been sold out by big pharma, big guns, and big lies. They're untruths. Debate me on international TV, okay? If you're so clear, like Robert Kennedy with his book, no one debates him. No one sues him. Sue me. Debate me, Mr. CNN. Come on. Mr. Anderson, talk to me. $10 million of your $12 million salary comes from Big Pharma? Talk to me about the wisdom of CNN's position about the vilification of Aung San Suu Kyi by being in denial of protecting the Rohingyas. And I'll point out 4 or 5 facts that obliterate your position. And then admit it to the world that we lied, we were duped, just like we were with the XAV. You know, and how much is truth more important than the vocation of the study of psychology? And it depends on how urgent we feel the revolution's coming to our door. I'll close with this, I promise. You know, when I was in Yugoslavia briefly for the war, never really in threat. I want to make it clear I was not a correspondent. I studied it from a distance. I was protected by the local populations. But one of the things I heard repeatedly from those who made it to safe havens, we did not believe when the village or the town ahead of us said they're coming for us. It sounds like right out of the Holocaust. We were Croatian Catholics. We had no belief. Really? They're going to check your last name. They have your name. They have your address. They have your heritage. And those who left survived, some of them. Those who didn't went down in statistics, the genocide. And it became a 3-way genocide based upon ethnic cleansing. They came for names of ethnicity. And so I don't want to be a hard lesson. I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want history to be shown. Who was Alan Clements? Oh, he was one of the ones who kind of didn't purge his brown shirt. From my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. See you again next Sunday, June 25th, 11 a.m. Should we all be alive? I hope to be. And thank you for tuning in. And I don't think so, but I think I'm going to just leave it at that because I've got some serious things I'm doing with this film. And I've got to keep it open, but I think I'll keep doing them so long as I'm tolerated both locally and internationally.
Okay.